So before we talk about who to marry and who not to marry, the first thing we need to talk about is why get married at all? What is marriage and what is it for? Who needs it? It seems like we're better off not being married. When you get married, you add a lot of issues and a lot of conflict to your life. What do you need it for? So the question really is it better to be alone, or is it better to be permanently attached to another human being? Without God, without the Torah, much better to be alone and to not be attached to anybody. But for some reason, the Torah says, God says, Lo tov heyasa adam levadei. It is not good to be alone. But that's a godly, heavenly feeling. The human feeling is better by myself. If I need some help from somebody, I'll ask for help, but I don't want to be attached. I want to be independent and I want to be by myself. Much easier, much simpler, seems to be much better. So what is going on? What is this thing called marriage? Why do we get married? Why did anybody ever get married? What's marriage? The secular picture of marriage is that you get married because you're in love. If a man and a woman are in love with each other, they get married. I don't understand that. If you're already in love with each other, why do you need to get married? If you love each other, good. So enjoy it. Why do you need to add marriage? So love can't be a reason for marrying. In fact, marriage has to come before love. First, you have to be committed to the idea, I need to get married. Then you find someone you love to marry. But the marriage is more important than the love. The love just makes the marriage successful. But you don't get married because of love, you get married because of marriage. So what is this thing, marriage? And what's good about it? I think it's true, not an exaggeration. I think it's true that one of the most serious problems we have today, you can even call it a health problem, is loneliness. People are suffering from terrible loneliness. And when people suffer from loneliness, their health becomes a problem, because when you're feeling alone, your immune system doesn't work very well. And if your immune system is not working, then you are vulnerable to every disease. Now, this is a little bit surprising because we have so many friends. We can travel, we can go online, people can like you online. Why are we lonely? In the olden days, when you were stuck in your village and hardly ever left your village, it makes more sense that you might be lonely. But today, why are we lonely? Why do we feel that we're alone in the world? So, really, the question is, do I want to be alone? Or do I get sick when I feel like I'm all alone? The only way to explain this is that my human nature demands independence and I want to be alone. But my godly nature can't stand being alone. So the reason we want to be connected to another person or to other people is because there is something godly about oneness and ungodly when the oneness is missing. If you read the Torah, you see that the first human being was created male and female. That was the original human being, was half male and half female. It was like two sides of a coin. One side was male, one side was female. And that was considered a perfect human being. Then God separated the male from the female. They became two separate people. But they were told right away, get married and become one. Reconnect and become one again. And how do you reconnect? By marrying. So, what is wrong with being alone? If you're alone, you're only male or you're only female. And that's not perfect. To be perfect, you have to be male and female. So the question is, they were already one, they were created as one. Why does God separate them and then tell them to become one again through marriage? But one thing is very clear. Marriage is God's idea, not a human idea. So if you get married for human reasons, it's probably not going to work. Because the human part of you doesn't really want to be married, wants to be independent. Your ego does not enjoy marriage. So the only reason to get married is because it's a godly way to live. And only your godly soul can appreciate it and love it. So what actually happens? A man and a woman get married. Their purpose is to become one. It's not for love. It's not for sex. It's not for security. It's not for sharing expenses. There's only one reason for marriage: to become one. When you become one, you do not feel alone in the world. If you don't become one, then you're independent, you are separate, and you feel alone in the world. So if you're male, it's not enough to be male. And if you're female, it's not enough to be female. You need to be both. And the only way to become both is through marriage. Marriage means you merge, not you love, you merge with the other, with your spouse, until you become one person. So here's the beautiful romantic idea behind it. Male and female were one. When they were created, they were one body. But they were one body back to back. They had one spine. So they faced in opposite directions. They never saw each other. They needed each other. They were connected to each other. They were attached to each other, but they never saw each other. God separated them not to be separate. God separated them so that they can become one face to face. The operation was worth it because the difference between back to back and face to face is absolutely infinitely different. It's infinitely better to be connected face to face than back to back. So, God is romantic. He wants a relationship with us face to face. And so he creates us with that same need to connect to somebody face to face. So face to face means, number one, by choice, not by fact. The first human being was created male and female, was not his choice, not her choice. It was just a fact. The oneness that we want comes from our desire, from our choice. That's called face to face. You marry somebody you don't really understand, you're relating back to back. You become dependent on each other, but you don't really know each other. You don't see each other. That's called back to back. When you choose, when it's personal, when it's romantic, then it's face to face. Now, this whole thing is so holy, it's so godly, that without God, we probably shouldn't get married. The reason we get married is because God said that that's the best way to be. So the whole idea of marriage is God's idea. So when you get married, it makes a lot of sense to do it the way He describes and with a person that He chooses, and for reasons of oneness, not for personal gain. So if you're thinking of getting married because it'll make you better, it'll help you in some way, don't do it. Marriage has to be dissolving, not becoming more. You have to dissolve into the relationship. You have to merge, not get something from it. And that's why you have to be devoted and committed and attached to your wife, to your husband, not to some part of your wife or husband. If a person says, I want to marry you because you're rich and I like money, everybody would agree that that's not a good idea. Why? What's wrong with money? There's nothing wrong with money. Money is very good. Money is very useful. People love money. The problem is, if you're marrying somebody for their money, then you're really marrying the money, not the person who has the money. In fact, the person is the problem because all you want is money and the person gets in the way. So if a man says to a woman, I want to marry you for your money, he's really saying, could you just give me the money? Because that's all I want. But I know, you're not just going to give me the money. You're going to want me to marry you for the money. Okay, I'll marry you. But really, I'm marrying the money. So, what happens if the money is lost? What happens if the money is spent and there's no more money? What about us? There's no us. I never married you. I don't need you. I just wanted the money. But the same is true with love. I want to marry you because I'm in love with you. Because I love you and you love me. That's why we should get married. Really? Are you marrying the person or are you marrying the love? If I marry you for love, what I'm saying is, I want your love and I want to love you. That's all I'm interested in. If you start giving me your opinion and your mood and your feelings and your personality, no, no, no. I didn't marry you for that. I married you only for the love. So give me love and the rest I don't want to hear about. It's very nasty. Most people, most people believe that marriage means a person you love and have sex with. That's it. What else is there? Yeah, if you have kids, then then you're going to have to raise them together. And that's a big problem because the mother does most of the work, the father is hardly ever there. It's a big problem. So, what is marriage? Marriage means having sex with someone you love. But do you really need to be married for that? Obviously not. So, marrying for love is just as bad as marrying for money. Marrying for sex is just as bad as marrying for money. What is bad about it? You're not connecting to each other. You don't need each other. If I marry you for the money, I just want the money. If I marry you for love, I just want the love. And if I marry you for sex, I just want the sex. I don't need you. You are the least important part of the whole relationship. If you're the least important part of the relationship, then you are alone in the world, even though you're married. And that should never happen. So, how is it that by getting married, you stop being alone? You have a mother, you have a father, you're very close with them. That's not good enough? No. Having a good relationship with your parents, you're still alone because you're not one with them. They have each other. You're number three, not number one. Only in marriage are you number one. And that's because marriage is a reunion. A reunion. Two parts of one soul get separated into male and female. And in marriage, they find each other and they reunite. Same is true with the body. The body was once male and female. It got separated. When a male and a female find each other, it's a reunion. That's why two men getting married, they can live happily ever after. But it's not a marriage. because they're creating a union that is not a reunion. A Jew and a non-Jew can live together and be happy with each other, but it's not a marriage because it's not a reunion. A Jewish soul and a non-Jewish soul are not two halves of the same. So if it's not a reunion, what's the problem? The problem is you are living together, you're enjoying it, but you're alone in the world. You become connected in marriage as a reunion, then you are not alone. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there is a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. We have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal. It's questions and answers. It's conversation. It's really relaxed. It's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program. There's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it just conversation, casual, laid back, unscripted. So join us. Take a look. Click the link below and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.